The Extraordinary Rendition of Janos Farkas. Chapter 50. He needed answers to questions he couldn't ask. Who do you turn to when there is no one to turn to? Who do you ask when there was no one to ask? He couldn't believe Ignatus would put him this far into it on his own. But he had no lead to follow, only himself. And who was he? He stopped at a tobacconist on Amir Omar Street and bought a pack of expensive Dunhill cigarettes. "You don't smoke," Gisela said to him. "All taxi drivers smoke," Spencer replied. "You are not a taxi driver," she shot back. "What am I?" he asked. "An actor." "Yes," he replied, "and what does an actor do?" "He acts." He didn't wait for Gisela's reply, wanting to show leadership, wanting to take command. Turning, he started down the street. Howard's hotel loomed in the distance. He walked without talking, without thinking, trying not to anticipate the unknown. With his sunglasses and baseball cap hiding his facial bruises, he felt like a figment of someone else's imagination. Two taxi drivers were having a smoke outside their cabs. Spencer went over and joined them. He took out the Dunhill cigarettes and passed them around. The cabbies each took one, putting it in their pockets for later, and continued with their own cheap smokes. "I drive a taxi in Sarajevo," he said to them. "An old Lada. It is the best I can afford. I see many Mercedes taxis in Beirut. Taxi drivers here must be rich." And so it was that the taxi drivers started their string of complaints on what a rough life a taxi driver had. "We don't get the tourists since the war," one said. "And the ones that do come are mostly Syrians, and they don't tip," the other added. "Do you know how old my Mercedes is? It's 23 years old. If my brother were not a mechanic, I don't know what I would do." "You would have to steal newer parts," the other one said, laughing. "It is quiet here today," Spencer said. "Tomorrow will be even quieter," one answered. "The League of Arab States is holding its summit here. Beirut will be at a standstill." "The Saudis are already here," the other added. "They have taken over the top floors of the hotel behind us." "King Haakon is here?" Spencer asked. "No, the two brothers. Crown Prince Fadil and the other one." "Howd?" "Yes, Prince Howd. They are here. The king stays on the Royal Saudi yacht in the harbor. There's a helicopter pad on it and one on the hotel." "So I guess he has no need of your taxi service," Spencer said with a grin. The two cabbies laughed. "What about the princes, Fadil and the other one?" "Fadil is very religious. He keeps to himself." "And Howd?" "He has his own car. He was organizing a big evening of entertainment for all the heads of state. But there is a rumor it has been cancelled." "It is more than a rumor," the other one said. "My cousin was supposed to work it." "Why has it been cancelled?" Spencer asked. "My cousin didn't know." Spencer took the Dunhills out and offered them a round again. This time, when the men took the cigarettes, they lit them. "Do you ever see the Saudi princes?" Spencer asked. "We never see Fadil. He spends most of his time with his father on the yacht. But we see Howd all the time. Sometimes he is with his bodyguards. Sometimes he is on his own." "I've never seen the prince," Spencer said. "Maybe I'll hang around and see if I can get a look at one." "Why don't you go in and ask to meet one?" the driver said. "I've never even seen the prince," Spencer said. "Maybe I'll hang around and see if I can get a look at one." "Why don't you go in and ask to meet one?" the driver said, laughing. "I'm sure a Saudi prince would love to have a Sarajevo taxi driver among his entourage." "Maybe I will," Spencer replied with a big grin. "Maybe I will. Offer him a Dunhill cigarette." "I'm going to do that," Spencer replied. "Just see if I don't." The drivers watched Spencer walk towards the hotel. "Did you notice anything?" one asked. "What?" "He gave us Dunhill cigarettes." "Yes." "But he never had one himself." Maybe he doesn't smoke. Doesn't that seem strange to you? Why does he have the cigarettes? And why does he have the sunglasses on and a hat pulled down over his face? Didn't he think we wouldn't be able to see the beating someone has given him? I don't think I trust him. Do you think we should tell someone? No. Who would we tell? We better stay out of it. Maybe he's Hezbollah. Or worse. What could be worse than Hezbollah? The other asked, as Spencer entered the hotel. Look, there's someone following him. Who? That big guy over there. He's been watching us. As Spencer entered the hotel, Turk was only steps behind him. The prince is sending someone down to get you, the desk clerk said, putting the phone down. And my friend, Spencer said, nodding at Turk, he is with me. Where I go, he goes. The desk clerk's look said, screw you, but all he did was shrug his shoulders and turn to do some imaginary work. Spencer watched the elevators. There were 5 of them, with 2 cordoned off from the others. The far one was at the top floor, the 12th, and the closer one at the 11th. While he waited for one of the elevators to move, Spencer studied the lobby, looking for doors, exits, escape routes. There was a lobby bar to his left and a tuck shop to his right. There were exit signs on either side of the banks of elevators. Stairs up and exits out. Over by the entrance to the lobby bar was another elevator and an unlocked, unmarked door. Service, laundry, parking. Spencer watched, hoping some would use it to see where they were going. No one did. He felt Turk give him a brush that was so light and quick, no one but himself would have known that it was a nudge. The elevator had left the 11th floor and was now already down to 6. When it reached the lobby, the door opened with all of the leisurely speed that befits a 5-star hotel. It took equally as long for the man inside to step out. The priest, Turk whispered under his breath. Spencer watched the man emerge. Dressed in a long white Arabic robe, he was anything but priest-like, and yet there was something about the thinness of the face, the tightness of the lips, the sharpness of his nose, and the rose tint of his glasses that made him look equally un-Islamic. He was a piece of the puzzle that had not been given to Spencer during his studies at the university in Tulsa, or in his taxi driving in Sarajevo. There was only a mention at Far Philistin, and what he had been told on the road from Damascus was not much. How much did the real Janos know? Had they met? Were they enemies? Allies? What was the deal? He decided he would ignore and avoid the priest as much as he could, keeping his dealings strictly with Howd and letting the priest reveal his side before he had to. The priest never smiled or said hello. He simply motioned for Spencer to come to the elevator. Spencer, in turn, motioned for Turk to follow him. The priest shook his head. Spencer stopped. Staring hard at the priest, he turned and started to leave. He had taken no more than a few steps when he heard the priest call out, "Stop." Spencer turned, knowing he had won this one. The priest did not have the power to stand between him and Howd. His normal reaction would have been to smile to show the victory, but he did not do this. His eyes met the priest's, but only for a second before they looked past him. Gisela was standing by the elevator door. The priest noticed Spencer's eyes look by him. He glanced over his shoulder to see what it was. The sight of the woman did nothing to brighten his expression. The ride up was quiet. Spencer looked at the elevator buttons. There were 12 floors with one button above that. That one was keyed, the roof, the helicopter pad. He wondered if it were the same key the priest was using to operate the elevator now. The door opened onto a plush wide corridor, a floor of suites. Large double doors at the far end were wide open. Howd was standing there. In spite of all the videos, news clips, photos, and press clippings, Spencer was not ready for the real Howd. Somehow, even with visual proof, he had built the prince up to be a much bigger man. The prince was a short ass, with a broad nose, chubby cheeks, and a hairline beard. It was only when he spoke that he emitted any authority or eminence. "Janos," Howd bellowed out down the corridor. "Janos, my friend, I have been expecting you. Come here." Spencer made no answer, no verbal retort, not knowing the exact words Janos would use. He just walked forward, extending his arms as he would to a friend. He was a good 6 inches shorter than Spencer, but somehow Howd enveloped him, his arms circling around Spencer, pulling him from cheek to cheek for near-miss kisses. "Gisela," he said, releasing Spencer, "you are more beautiful than ever. I should have married you when I had the chance." Gisela smiled at him, as if there actually were a time when he could have married her. "And Turk," Howd continued. "Turk, my friend, it has been too long. How are you? I see you managed to get our man Janos out of his predicament." "Very good, very good. And you did it without the priest's help. And he so wanted to help. Didn't you, priest?" Spencer saw the look on the priest's face. It was anything but helpful. He knew right away the man was dangerous, and that, one way or the other, he would have to deal with him if he were to bring Howd down. "Where is your new wife, Janos? I was so looking forward to meeting her. Is she not with you? Did she like the wedding present I sent her? And you? I know only a husband should give diamonds on a wedding day, but the stone was so exquisite and, well, you know how I am." "She is well. She is here in Beirut," Spencer replied, not acknowledging the wedding gift, of which he was not sure. "I wasn't sure we would get to see you. My information tells me the Syrians are too embarrassed about what happened to pursue it any further. They feel that they would look rather unreliable to the other members of the League." "You canceled the evening of entertainment for the heads of state?" Spencer said, changing the subject. "I didn't know if you'd be here," Howd replied. "I've made a change in plans." "What?" "In good time, my friend, in good time. Let me have a look at you. Take off those sunglasses and that hat. Let me have a look. Let me have a look." With the sunglasses and hat off, Spencer felt naked and exposed. Howd came to within inches of his face. "Ah, Janos," he said. "Far-Philistin has changed you." Spencer quickly put the glasses and hat back on. "You'll have to ask Gisela about the escape. She and Turk did it." Turk gave a simple, unemotional account of the escape. "I have met Dallas Mare once," Howd said when Turk finished. "He is a good man. He is a man who could take an important part in a much bigger plan, don't you think?" "Anyway," Howd said to Gisela, "you and Turk and the priest can talk about the escape while I discuss different plans with Janos." And he waved them away. When they had left, he said to Janos, "Tell me more about Far-Philistin. Are the Syrians really the devils they say they are? The president of Syria is here with his delegation, you know. Tell me about it." Spencer felt a sigh of relief flow through him. Far-Philistin was the one thing that was real, the one thing he knew. He had seen the real Janos. He had both seen and felt the torture. He knew the real words. There was a twinkle in Howd's eyes as he listened to him. That's the end of chapter 50.